gross. It's old, but I think it's nice. Give it some time. I think you'll learn to love it here.
I loved our old house. What's the use of loving a place if you're just going to be torn away from it?
Oh, come on. There's no need to cry about it. It's so pretty here. Did you see the big tree out back? We didn't have anything like that in the city.
Put all of this junk up here?
It wasn't junk to someone else. Why don't you take a few minutes and look around? I'll be downstairs. Your father clearly needs help.
Wait, seriously?
It could be fun. You never know what you might find.
Oh, there's cobwebs everywhere. Wear this. Letters to Anne? How old are these? Marilla Cuthbert. Mary Lay? Marilla. Marilla. Weird. I don't think I'll ever get Canadians. Dear Anne, how time has flown since you first got here. That day you came into our lives seemed so distant and yet at the same time like it happened just yesterday. I'm not even sure I remember much of myself before that time. Quite frankly, I do not much care to recollect what it was like before you came in and reshaped our lives. I wasn't so sure about you at first, though, since you weren't exactly what we were expecting. No, you certainly weren't.
Matthew Cuthbert? Who is that? Where's the boy?
There weren't any boys. Only her.
No boys. But there must have been a boy. We sent word to Mrs. Spencer specifically to bring a boy.
Well, she didn't. I asked the station master if there were any boys, and there weren't. She couldn't be left there.
Well, this is a pretty piece of business.
You don't want me! You don't want me because I'm not a boy! Oh, I might have expected it. Nobody ever did want me. I should have known it was all too beautiful to last.
Well, there's no need to cry about it.
Yes, there is need. You would cry too if you were an orphan and had come to a place that you thought was going to be a home and found out they didn't want you because you weren't a boy. Oh, this is the most tragical thing that has ever happened to me.
Well, don't cry anymore. We're not going to turn you out of doors tonight. What is your name?
Would you please call me Cordelia?
Call you Cordelia?
That's such a perfectly elegant name.
I don't know what on earth you mean. If Cordelia isn't your name, what is?
Anne Shirley. Oh, but please call me Cordelia.
It can't matter much to you what you call me if I'm only going to be here a short while. And Anne is such an unromantic name.
Fiddlesticks. Anne is a good, plain, sensible name. You've no need to be ashamed of it.
Oh, I'm not ashamed of it. Only I like Cordelia better. But if you do call me Anne, would you please call me Anne spelled with an E?
What difference does it make how it's spelled?
Why, it makes such a difference. A-N-N looks dreadful, but A-N-N-E looks so much more distinguished. If only you will call me Anne spelled with an E, I shall try to reconcile myself to not being called Cordelia.
Very well then, Anne with an E. Can you tell us how this mistake came to be made? Were there no boys at the orphanage?
Oh yes, there was an abundance of them, but Mrs. Spencer said distinctly that you wanted a girl, about 11 years old. Oh, you don't know how delighted I was. I couldn't sleep all last night for joy. Why didn't you tell me at the station you didn't want me and leave me there? If I hadn't seen the white way of delight and the lake of shining waters, it wouldn't be so hard.
What on earth does she mean?
She's just referring to some conversation we had on the road. I'm going out to put the mare in, Marilla.
Did Mrs. Spencer bring anybody over besides you?
She brought Lily Jones for herself. Lily is only 5 years old and is very beautiful and has nut brown hair. If I was very beautiful and had nut brown hair, would you keep me?
No. We want a boy to help Matthew on the farm. A girl would be of no use to us. Take off your hat. You're not eating anything.
I can't. I'm in the depths of despair.
Can you eat when you're in the depths of despair?
I've never been in the depths of despair, so I can't say.
Well, have you ever tried to imagine you were in the depths of despair?
No, I haven't. To despair is to turn your back on God.
And I don't think you can understand what it's like. When you try to eat, a lump comes right up into your throat and you can't swallow anything. I do hope you won't be offended because I can't eat. Everything's extremely nice, but still I cannot eat.
I guess she's tired. Best put her to bed, Marilla.
I had you follow me, you poor thing you were with your old hat and broken carpet bag. The moment we entered the East Gable room, you jumped into bed without hesitation and started into crying again. I had no idea what to do except tell you goodnight. It startled me to death when you flashed those big eyes at me suddenly.
How can you call it a good night when you know it must be the very worst night I've ever had?
I'll have you know that I wasn't the only one who was unsettled about the whole affair. Matthew was a sorry sight, smoking away at that pipe of his. Filthy habit.
Well, this is a pretty kettle of fish. One of us will have to drive over and see Mrs. Spencer tomorrow, that's certain. The girl will have to be sent back to the orphanage.
Well, no, I suppose so.
You suppose so? Don't you know it?
Well, she's a real nice little thing. It's kind of a shame to send her back when she's so set on staying here.
Matthew Cuthbert, you don't mean to say you think we ought to keep her?
Well, no. No. I suppose we could hardly be expected to keep her.
I should say not. What good would she be to us?
I thought maybe we might be some good to her.
Matthew Cuthbert, I believe that child has bewitched you. I can see as plain that you want to keep her.
Well, no, she's a real interesting little thing. You should have heard her talk coming from the station.
She can talk fast enough. It's nothing in her favor either. I don't like children who have so much to say. I don't want an orphan girl. And if I did, she isn't the style I'd pick out.
Style?
I could hire a local boy to help me, and she could be company for you. Goodness knows this crusty old brother of yours doesn't give you any decent company.
I'm not suffering for company.
Well, now, of course, it's just as you say, Marilla.
Have a heart, woman. Jeez. You're as strict as my mom.
The next morning, I thought you were never going to come out of that room. It was about time that you should have been up and dressed, but instead I came up to find a small dreamer staring out the window. I knew I made the mistake of waking you from your daydreams the moment you opened your mouth.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
What? The big tree?
Oh, I didn't just mean the tree. Of course, it's lovely. Yes, it's radiantly lovely. It blooms as if it meant it. But I meant everything. The garden and the orchard, and the brook and the woods, the whole big dear world. Don't you feel as if you just love the world on a morning like this? I'm not in the depths of despair this morning. I never can be in the morning. Isn't it a splendid thing that there are mornings? I was just imagining that it really was me you wanted after all, and I was going to stay here forever and ever. But the worst of imagining things is that the time comes when you have to stop, and that hurts.
You'd better get dressed and come downstairs. And never mind your imaginings. Breakfast is waiting. Wash your face and comb your hair.
You saying something so pretty like that gave me a strange feeling inside. Not knowing what to do with it, I thought it best to put my mind to other more sensible things. You came down not too long after I did, which made me wonder whether you'd really done as you had been told.
You weren't always so good about that when you first came.
But then that chatter started up again, and I was just about at my wit's end with you.
For pity's sake, hold your tongue! You talk entirely too much for a little girl.
You held your tongue so obediently and thoroughly that you made me nervous, as if I was in the presence of something not exactly natural. You became more and more abstracted, eyes fixed unseeingly and unswervingly on the sky outside the window. All I could think was that your body might be here at the table, but your spirit was far away. Who would want such a child about the place? And yet Matthew wished to keep you, of all unaccountable things. And he looked like he wanted it just as much this morning as he had the night before, and I knew he would go on wanting it. I felt pretty near sure that both of you were going to drive me to my grave.
What's to be done with you, I don't know. Matthew is a most ridiculous man.
Oh, I think he's lovely. He's so very sympathetic. He didn't mind how much I talked. He seemed to like it. I knew he was a kindred spirit as soon as ever I saw him.
You're both odd enough, if that's what you mean by kindred spirits. I'll have to drive over to White Sands in the afternoon and see Mrs. Spencer. You'll come with me, and we'll settle what's to be done with you. For now, you may go outside and amuse yourself until dinner time. What's the matter now?
I don't dare go out. If I can't stay here, there's no good in finding more things to love about Green Gables. There's no use in loving a thing you need to be torn from it, is there?
I never in all my life saw or heard anything equal to you. Kind of interesting, as Matthew said, wondering what on earth you'll say next. I could feel you casting a spell over me, just like you had on Matthew.
I suppose I can have the mare and buggy, Matthew. I'm going to drive over to White Sands. I'll take Anne with me, and Mrs. Spencer will probably make arrangements to send her back to Nova Scotia at once.
As we rode away, I thought I felt Matthew staring at us over the gate. Little did I know that you were going to be successful in casting that spell over me on the drive over, telling me about your sad history before Matthew had picked you up. At first, you had tried to weasel your way out of it by telling me what you imagined about your past. Do you remember, Anne? But I wanted you to stick to bald facts. A starved, unloved life you'd had. A life of drudgery and poverty and neglect. I felt pity stirring in my heart. I thought I still knew you had to be sent back, but what if I maybe did indulge in Matthew's whim and let you stay? After we had talked with Mrs. Spencer, I knew I couldn't let that hard-hearted woman only take you as a hired hand. We had to at least give you a chance. And for some reason, I couldn't tell you until the next afternoon that you were going to stay. I suppose you were bursting into tears when I finally did tell you was reason enough, but you flinging yourself into my arms and kissing my cheeks sent a sudden sensation of startling sweetness through me. And that was the first time in my whole life that childish lips had voluntarily touched my face. I was so happy, and yet I didn't know what to do with those motherly feelings. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I tried to be serious again and get you to work on your chores. I kind of wished I hadn't. That is so cute!
Anne, bring out the illustrated card that's on the mantelpiece. The Lord's Prayer is on it, and you'll devote your spare time this afternoon to learning it off by heart.
I like this. It's beautiful. It isn't exactly poetry, but it makes me feel just the same way poetry does. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That's just like a line of music. I'm so glad you thought of making me learn this, Marilla.
Well, learn it, and hold your tongue.
Marilla, do you think I will ever have a bosom friend in Avonlea?
A what kind of friend?
A bosom friend. An intimate friend, you know? Really kindred spirits, whom I could confide my inmost soul. I've dreamed of meeting her my whole life. I never really thought I would, but so many of my loveliest dreams have come true all at once that maybe this one will too. Do you think it's possible?
Diana Barry lives over at Orchard Slope, and she's about your age. She's a very nice little girl. You'll have to be careful how you behave yourself, though. Mrs. Barry is a very particular woman. She won't let any little girl play with Diana who isn't nice and good.
Oh, what is Diana like? Oh, her hair isn't red, is it? I hope not. It's bad enough having red hair myself, but I positively couldn't endure it in a bosom friend.
Diana is a very pretty little girl. She has dark eyes and black hair and rosy cheeks. And she is good and smart, which is better than being pretty.
Oh, I'm so glad she's pretty. Next to being beautiful oneself, and that's impossible in my case, it would be best to have a beautiful bosom friend.
Mrs. Rachel Lind. Didn't that house down the road say Lind on the mailbox? Oh, Anne, I was so positively bursting with curiosity to meet Matthew and Marilla's new orphan after all the gossip I had heard. A little girl instead of a boy.
I don't suppose you are any more surprised than I am myself. I'm getting over my surprise now.
It's too bad there was such a mistake. Couldn't you have sent her back?
I suppose we could, but we decided not to. Matthew took a fancy to her. And I must say, I like her myself, although I admit she has her faults. The house seems a different place already. She's a real bright little thing.
It's a great responsibility you've taken on yourself, especially when you've no real experience with children. You don't know much about her or her real disposition, I suppose, and there's no telling how a child like that will turn out. But I don't want to discourage you, Marilla.
I'm not feeling discouraged. When I make up my mind to do a thing, it stays made up. I suppose you'd like to see Anne. I'll call her in.
Oh! Well, they didn't pick you for your looks, that's sure and certain. She's terribly skinny and homely, Marilla. Come here, child, let me have a look at you. Oh, lawful heart! Did anyone ever see such freckles? And hair as red as carrots?
I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! How dare you call me skinny and ugly? How dare you say I'm freckled and redheaded? You are a rude, impolite, unfeeling woman! And how dare you say such things about me? How would you like to have such things said about you? How would you like to be told that you're fat and clumsy and probably have this spark of imagination in you? Oh, I don't care if I hurt your feelings by saying so. I hope I hurt them, for you have hurt mine worse than they've ever been hurt before. And I'll never forgive you for it. Never, never!
Did anyone ever see such a temper?
Anne Shirley, go to your room and stay there until I come up.
Well, I don't envy you your job in bringing that up, Marilla.
You shouldn't have twitted about her looks, Rachel.
Marilla Cuthbert, are you trying to tell me that you are upholding her in such a terrible display of temper as we've just seen?
No, I'm not trying to excuse her. She's been very naughty, and I will deal with that. But we must make allowances for her. She's never been taught what is right. And you were too hard on her, Rachel.
Well, I see that I'll have to be very careful what I say after this, Marilla, since the fine feelings of orphans brought from goodness knows where have to be considered before anything else. But if you'll take my advice, which I suppose you won't do, even though I've brought up 10 children and buried 2, you should deal with it with a fair-sized birch switch. I should think that would be the most effective kind of language for that kind of a child. Her temper matches her hair, I guess. Good evening, Marilla. I hope you'll come down to see me as often as usual, but you cannot expect me to visit here again in a hurry if I'm liable to be flown at and insulted in such a fashion.
I must say I was quite alarmed at first for Matthew and Marilla. But when you came to see me, you certainly did turn my opinion around of you, which I did not think was possible.
Oh, Mrs. Lynde, I am so extremely sorry. I could never express all my sorrow. Oh, Mrs. Lynde, I am so extremely sorry. I could never express all my sorrow. No, not if I used up an entire dictionary. You must just imagine it. I have behaved terribly to you, and I have disgraced the dear friends, Matthew and Marilla, who have allowed me to stay at Green Gables, although I'm not a boy. I am a terribly wicked and ungrateful girl, and I deserve to be punished and cast out by respectable people forever. It was very wicked of me to fly into a temper because you told me the truth. It was the truth. Every word you said was true. My hair is red, and I'm freckled, and skinny, and ugly. What I said about you was true, too. But I should have said it. Oh, Mrs. Lynn, please forgive me. If you refuse, it will be a lifelong sorrow on a poor little orphan girl. Would you, even if she had a terrible temper? Oh, please say you forgive me, Mrs. Lynn.
Well, there, get up, child. Of course I forgive you. Guess I was a little too hard on you anyways, but I'm such an outspoken person. You just mustn't mind me, that's what. Can't be denied your hair is terribly red, but I knew a girl once, went to school with her in fact, whose hair was every bit as red as yours when she was young, but when she grew up it darkened to a real handsome auburn.
Oh, Mrs. Lynn, you have given me hope. Oh, I feel I could endure anything if only I thought my hair would be a handsome auburn when I grew up.
Diana Barry. How much you be, Diana? Mother and I were reminiscing the other day about when we first met you. I thought you were the strangest girl I had ever met, but there was something about you that I instantly adored. But oh, I was so nervous when we first played with each other.
Glad you come to live here at Green Gables. There isn't any girl who lives near enough to play with, and I haven't any sisters big enough to.
Do you swear to be my friend forever and ever?
Why, it's dreadfully wicked to swear!
Oh, no, not my kind. There are two kinds, you know.
I've never heard of but one kind.
Oh, really, there is another. It isn't wicked at all. It just means vowing and promising solemnly.
Well, I guess I don't mind doing that. How do we do it?
We must join hands. It ought to be over running water.
We can just imagine that this path is running water.
I'll repeat the oath first. I solemnly swear to be faithful to my bosom friend, Diana Barry, as long as the sun and the moon shall endure.
Do people actually do this?
Now you say it and put my name in.
I solemnly swear to be faithful to my bosom friend, Anne Shirley, for as long as the sun and moon shall endure. Why, I had heard before that you were a strange girl, Anne Shirley, but I believe I'm going to like you real well.
Already, by the time you and Marilla had to leave, we were inseparable. And here we are now, Anne, not just having spent afternoons together, no, but glorious years. Simple as that. Oh, but our early school days together were absolutely splendid, weren't they? It makes me laugh to think back on how much you disliked a certain someone back then.
Anne? Well, I guess Gilbert Blythe will be in school today. He's been away visiting his cousins over in New Brunswick all summer, and he only just came home last Saturday night. He's awfully handsome, Anne. And he teases the girls something terrible. Why, he just torments our lives out. He's the one with his name coupled up with so many of the girls up on the porch wall with the big take notice.
What?
Take notice?
Okay, it's not just me.
It's a note for everyone to watch for a potential love story to blossom between two people. The most recent of his notices is with Julia Bell, but I'm sure he doesn't like her so very much. I've heard him say that he studied the multiplication table by her freckles.
Oh, don't speak of freckles to me, Diana. It isn't delicate when I've got so many. But I do think writing take notices up on the wall about boys and girls is the silliest ever.
I should just like to see someone try to write my name up with the boys. Not that anyone would.
Oh, nonsense. It's only meant as a joke. And don't you be too sure that your name won't ever be written up. Charlie Sloane is dead gone on you. Oh, he told his mother, mind you, that you are the smartest girl in the school. That's better than being good looking.
No, it isn't. I'd rather be pretty than clever. Huh. And I hate Charlie Sloane. I can't bear a boy with goggle eyes. If anyone wrote my name up with his, I would never get over Diana Barry. But it is nice to stay ahead of your class.
Well, you'll have Gilbert in your class after this, and he's used to being the head of his class. 4 years ago, his father got sick and had to move out to Alberta for his health, and well, Gilbert went with him. They were there for 3 years, and Gil didn't go to school hardly any until they came back. Well, he's a few years older than us, but he's behind in his studies, like you. You won't find it so easy after this, Anne.
Oh, I'm glad. I couldn't really feel proud of staying ahead of the little boys and girls, just 9 or 10.
It's gonna be great. That's Gilbert Blythe sitting across the aisle from you, Anne. Just look at him and see if you don't think he's handsome.
Ruby Gillis, quiet down and work on your songs. Psst.
I think your Gilbert Blythe is very handsome, but I think he's too bold. It isn't good manners to wink at a strange girl.
Carrots. Carrots.
You mean, hateful boy!
Anne Shirley, what is the meaning of this? Anne Shirley.
Sorry, Mr. Phillips, it was my fault. I teased her.
I am sorry to see a student of mine displaying such a temper and such a vindictive spirit. Anne Shirley, go and stand in front of the blackboard for the rest of the class.
Oh, Anne, I felt so awful for you then, having to stand there for so long. I surely would have cried, but you kept your head held high and glared at the back of the school. Your trial seemed unending, poor girl. I knew Mr. Phillips could be cruel sometimes, but making you sit with your Gilbert afterwards was horrible.
Did you hear what I said, Anne?
Yes, sir, but I didn't suppose you really meant it.
I assure you, I did. Obey me at once.
Anne. Anne, I'm sorry.
Class dismissed.
Oh, Anne, it was such a silly thing to be upset over, but you do love to hold a grudge. I just couldn't believe that you let one person keep you from going to school for so long. I was so surprised at how resentful you were of Gilbert. Every girl always forgave him right away. Come on, he deserved it.
Oh, Anne, how could you?
I shall never forgive Gilbert Blythe. And Mr. Phillips spelled my name without an E, too.
You mustn't mind Gilbert making fun of your hair, Anne. Why, he teases all the girls. Oh, he always makes fun of mine because it's so black. Why, he's called me Crow dozens of times, and I've never heard him apologize for anything before either.
Well, there's a great deal of difference between being called Crow and being called Carrots. Gilbert has hurt my feelings excruciatingly, Diana.
It was horrible when Matthew and Marilla decided to keep you out of school for a few days after that. I missed you terribly, and that ache could only grow worse. Oh, how melodramatic we were in those days, Anne, but back then it meant so much to us.
Holding the potatoes out to the lily signs this afternoon, is he?
Yes, our potato crop is very good this year. I hope your father's crop is good too.
It is very good, thank you.
Say, Diana, how'd you like some of Marilla's raspberry cordial?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Please help yourself, Diana. I don't believe I'll have any just now.
Oh, say, I didn't know the raspberry cordial was so good, Anne. Why, it's just so.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh, here, have as much as you want. Oh, thank you. sick. I must go right home. Oh, I mustn't dream. I mustn't dream of going home without your tea. I'll just get it right out. I'll put the tea down this very minute. No, I must go home. Let me make you a lunch anyhow. Let me get you some of that fruitcake and a bit of those cherry preserves. Lie down a while and you'll feel better. Where do you feel bad? I'm feeling awfully dizzy. Okay.
My mother was terribly upset when she saw me come home. We were too young to understand the difference between delicious raspberry cordial and currant wine. Oh no.
I felt so sick that entire day and the next, and having mother fuming over the situation didn't help much. I knew our friendship was over. The next day wasn't any better when we had to say goodbye to each other forever. But oh, we were the melodramatic children in those days, Anne.
Anne! Oh, your mother hasn't relented? Oh, no. And she says I'm never to play with you ever again. Oh. I cried and cried, and I tried telling her it wasn't your fault, but it wasn't any use. I had such a time convincing her to come and let me say goodbye to you. She says I'm only to stay for 10 minutes. And she's timing me by the clock. Oh, 10 minutes isn't very long to say an eternal farewell, Anne. Oh, Diana. Do you promise faithfully to never forget me? Indeed I will, and I will never have another bosom friend. I don't want to. Oh, I couldn't love anybody as I love you, Anne. Oh, Diana, you love me? Oh, yes, of course I do. Didn't you know that? No, I thought you liked me, of course, but I never hoped that you loved me. I didn't think that anybody could love me. Nobody ever has loved me. Since I can remember. Oh, this is wonderful! This is a ray of light which will forever shine on the darkness of a path severed from thee. Just say it once again. I love you devotedly, Anne, and I always will. You may be sure of that. And I shall always love thee. In the years to come, thy memory will shine like a star over the darkness of my lonely life. Diana, wilt thou give me a lock of thy jet black tresses and parting the treasure forevermore? I mean, may I have a bit of your hair as a keepsake? Oh, yes, of course. Have you got anything to cut it with? Fortunately, I have my Patrick scissors in my apron pocket. Fare thee well, my beloved friend. Henceforth, we must be as strangers, though living side by side. But my heart will always be faithful to thee.
Okay, but that is the cutest thing ever. Weird, but cute. Never had a friend like that back home. Everyone at school was delighted when you decided to come back, but of course no one was as delighted as me. Despite only being able to gaze sadly at each other every once in a while, I felt in my heart that that was more of a luxury than we even deserved. Do you remember that little letter I wrote you? How I wrote my undying love to my bosom friend and gave you a bookmark?
It's so good to see you, Anne.
You deprived us of your imagination and games. Moody is so boring.
And he's always off key. It's so nice to have your voice back for singing.
Your dramatic ability in the perusal aloud of books at dinner hour is more than welcomed once again.
Well, I, of course, smuggled a few blue plums from home for you. Just something to show how blue I was without you.
I can top that, Ruby. My best slate pencil!
Costing 2 cents, where ordinary pencils cost only 1.
Bedizened with striped red and yellow paper.
Don't worry, Anne. I'm sure we'll find something to fill that void in your heart. We'll help you figure it out.
I'm glad you're back, Anne. It's been boring without my greatest rival. I'm sorry, Anne. Can we be friends? Please?
Hey, you think Anne found a way to fill that hole in her heart?
Of course. She'll fill it by beating Gilbert Blythe. Didn't you see that dreamy look they just shared?
There's that determination, Anne.
Come on, Gil, you can't be beat by a girl.
It's just for fun.
Good-natured Gil, like always.
Does Gilbert think Anne's doing this just for fun?
I love Anne, but her ability to hold a grudge is something most unpraiseworthy.
Intense in her hatreds as in her loves. Do you ever think she'll stoop to admit to the rivalry?
That would mean actually acknowledging Gilbert's existence!
Which she persistently ignores. Mr. Blythe, Miss Shirley, please attempt to solve the problems on the blackboard.
Scoot down. I think Anne treats Gilbert horribly.
It's fun to watch.
I heard he saved her life and she didn't even thank him.
Oh, please. You weren't there.
And you were?
Yes. Well, for part of it anyway. And she did thank him.
But she didn't forgive him.
There's more news about Gilbert and Anne.
I would have forgiven Gilbert Blythe at a heartbeat. But he did say something mean about her hair once. I can't imagine what I would do if someone twitted me about my looks.
They'd be crazy too.
Anne doesn't have to be friends with everyone, even if the boy is Gilbert Blythe and he saves her life.
Gilbert saved Anne's life?
Moody, you really haven't heard. Anne almost drowned.
Anne almost drowned?
No, no, no!
Well, we were playing a game called, what was it, Jane?
Camelot.
That's right. And Anne was floating down the river in a funeral boat.
And then a huge wave came and pushed the boat over, and she...
No, you goose. She was riding on a flat and it started to sink.
Then Gilbert gallantly came riding by on his horse.
When did Gilbert get a horse?
He doesn't have a horse.
She meant his father's boat.
Mr. Blythe named his boat Horse?
There are no horses.
But Gilbert did have to kiss Anne to wake her up when he saved her.
Anne Shirley, sit down this instant.
Hey, Ruby, do their names together remind you of anything?
Take notice.
Ruby, kill us!
Anne Shirley!
Sorry, Anne.
Forgive him, Anne? Just this once.
He won't bite.
Class dismissed.
All the excitement made me only miss him more. Now, you know I would never wish ill on others, Anne, but I sure was glad after Minnie May caught that bad case of it.
Crow? Crow up? Croup. Inflammation of the larynx and trachea in children associated with infection and causing breathing difficulties. Gross. Anne saved a kid? That's actually pretty cool. How thankful I was to have such a great friend that even though we were supposed to be parted forever, you still came to my little sister's rescue. We Barrys will never be able to thank you enough for that night. My mother was so filled to the brim with gratitude that she allowed our friendship to return. No greater gift have I ever been given. These two are too much. Marla. I remember the night I told you about joining the Queen's class. I had laid my knitting on my lap and leaned back in my chair. I remember looking over you with tenderness, but instead remained quiet for a moment instead. And looked at you with such tenderness that never would have been suffered to reveal itself in any clearer light than that soft mingling of fireshine and shadow. I realize now that that lesson of love should display itself easily in spoken word. An open look is one I could never learn. My love makes me afraid sometimes of being unduly indulgent. I get this uneasy feeling that it is rather sinful to set one's heart so intensely on any human creature as I set mine on you, Anne.
Your new teacher was here while you were out with Diana.
Miss Stacy? What for?
She wants to organize a class among her advanced students who mean to study for the entrance examination for a teaching licensure at Queen's Academy. She intends to give them extra lessons for an hour after school. What do you think about it yourself, Anne? Would you like to go to Queen's and pass for a teacher?
Oh, Marilla, it's been the dream of my life. Well, that is for the last 6 months. Ever since Ruby and Jane began talking of studying for the entrance. I'd love to be a teacher. But Won't it be dreadfully expensive?
You needn't worry about that part of it. When Matthew and I took you in to bring you up, we resolved we would do the best we could for you and give you a good education. I believe in a girl being fitted to earn her own living whether she ever had to or not. You'll always have a home here at Green Gables as long as Matthew and I are here. But nobody knows what is going to happen in this uncertain world, and it's just as well to be prepared. So you can join the Queen's class if you like, Anne.
Oh, Marilla, thank you.
Now, you know I don't like to stroke others' vanity, Anne, but I want you to remember what you said. Not because of its wisdom, but because of its truth.
It's a serious thing to grow up, isn't it, Marilla? But with such good friends as you and Matthew and Miss Stacy, I ought to grow up successfully. I'm sure it will be my own fault if I don't. I've only got the one chance. If I don't grow up right, I can't go back and begin over again.
Oh, that's deep. I got chills.
You will have many more worries throughout your life, Anne, but don't let them do just that. I know I'm a fine one to write that, but there's no point worrying about all the troubles in life if you don't work on them. And oh, how you had grown in that summer. I felt a strange regret over your inches. The child I had learned to love had vanished somehow, and here was this tall, serious-eyed girl of 15, with thoughtful brows and the proudly poised head in its place. I loved the girl as much as I had loved the child, but I was conscious of an odd, sorrowful sense of loss. Oh. That night, after you had gone to prayer meeting with Diana, I sat quietly in the wintry twilight and indulged in the weakness of a cry. Matthew caught me at it and gazed at me in such consternation that I had to laugh through my tears.
I was just thinking about Anne. She's got to be such a big girl, and she'll probably be away from us next winter. I'll miss her something terrible.
She'll be able to come home often.
It won't be the same as having her here all the time. But there. Men can't understand these things.
The Queen's class was organized in due time, consisting of
Anne Shirley,
Moody Spurgeon, McPherson,
Charlie Sloan,
Jane Andrews, Ruby Gillis,
And of course,
Gilbert Blythe.
it's taken. Would you believe it? They still have an open rivalry.
but this time it's not one-sided. Gilbert's as determined to be first in the class as Anne. Didn't you hear? His father can't help him afford queens. He'll have to pay for it himself or at least get awards.
At least Anne will keep him working hard.
Gilbert is the adversary worthy of her steel, so things should be fun again.
As if anyone could even dream of competing with them to begin with. They're scaring me. Anne's coldness towards Gilbert is normal, but Gilbert's towards Anne?
She doesn't want to be friends with him.
Well, that's nothing new.
He doesn't want to be friends with her either.
Charlie Sloan, what's he?
Gilbert tried apologizing for everything that's happened between them. Anne refused. So Gilbert's given up.
That's a shame. They're so much alike.
Maybe they're too similar.
Maybe people should be more focused on their schoolwork. Ruby, I have that book you lent me. Perhaps we could talk about it on our way to prayer meeting.
I don't know how you find time to read in between all of our extra assignments. No wonder you're doing so well in class.
Examinations for queens are only a few days away. Do you feel ready, Gilbert?
I hate exams. How long have I been up here?
More letters? A lot more letters. Let's see, who's next? Wait. Ooh. Back to Diana, the bosom friend. Nope, still weird. How we wept like two silly geese when it came time for you to leave to take the exam. By that point, you were the only person on the whole island who wasn't convinced you were going to pass. It wasn't as heart-wrenching as when we were little and thought we were separated forever by Mother, but there was a bit of the future in it we weren't seeing yet, wasn't there?
Oh, it does feel as if it were the end of everything, doesn't it?
You wouldn't feel half as badly as I do. You'll be back again soon. But I suppose I've left the dear old school for good. If I have any luck, that is.
Oh, it won't be a bit the same. Miss Stacy won't be there. Nor you, nor Jane, nor Ruby. I shall have to sit all alone, for I couldn't bear to have another desk mate after you. Oh, if you could stop crying, I would.
Just as I split away my hanky, I see you brimming up, and that starts me off again. Well, as Mrs. Lynn says, if you can't be cheerful as you can. Besides, I dare say I'll be back again next year. This is one of the times I know I'm not going to pass. They're getting alarmingly frequent.
I do wish I was going in with you, but I suppose you'll have to cram in the evenings.
No, Miss Stacy made us promise not to open a book at all. She said it would only tire and confuse us. But we are to go out walking and not think about the exams at all, and go to bed early. It's good advice, but I expect it'll be hard to follow. Good advice is apt to be, I think.
Oh, you'll write to me once you're in, won't you?
I'll write Tuesday night and tell you how the first day goes.
I'll be haunting the post office Wednesday.
I can't tell you how excited I was when I finally received your letter. But oh, I couldn't for the life of me begin to imagine how horrible it was for you. I wish I had been there to cheer you all on. Even though you had only been gone a few days, it felt like years since we had parted.
Oh, you old darling, it's perfectly splendid to see you back again. Oh, Anne, how did you get along?
Pretty well, I think, and everything but geometry. I don't know whether I passed or not, and I have a creepy crawly presentiment that I didn't.
That reminds me of the ACT.
Oh, it's so good to be back. Green Gables is the dearest, loveliest spot in the world.
Oh, how did the others do?
Well, the girls say they know they didn't pass, but I think they did pretty well. Moody still thinks he failed in history, and Charlie says he failed in algebra. But we don't really know anything about it, and won't until the pass list comes out.
Oh, you'll pass all right. Don't worry about that.
I'd rather not pass at all than not come out pretty well up on the list.
You silly girl. I knew exactly what you meant by that. It wasn't about worrying that you weren't going to pass. No. You were afraid of Gilbert beating you out. You and your rivalry. Although, you did want to pass high regardless of Gilbert. You wanted nothing more than to impress Matthew and Marilla and do well for their sake. Your aspirations always seemed so much more noble than others. Well, wasn't I excited when I got to be the first to show you the pass list?
Oh, Anne, you passed. Oh, you passed the very first one. You and Gilbert both. You've tied, but your name is first. Oh, Anne, I'm so proud. You've done just splendidly. Father brought the paper home from Bright River not 10 minutes ago. When I saw the pass list, why, I just rushed over like a wild thing. Oh, you've all passed, each and every one of you. Moody Spurgeon and all. Oh, Jane and Ruby did fairly well. They're halfway up. Oh, and so did Charlie! Oh, Anne, how does it feel to see your name at the head of a pass list like this? Oh, 200 people! I'm just dazzled inside. I want to say 100 things and can't find the words to say them. Oh, if you'll excuse me a minute, Diana, I must run right out to the field and tell Matthew, and then we'll go down the road and tell the others the good news. To think, I'm the best friend of the girl who beat out the whole island.
Whole island? Are you serious? I wonder if I could ever. No, I wish I could be that smart. Oh, how nice. Those weeks leading up to your leaving for Queen's sure seemed to fly by. There was much sewing to be done and many things to be talked over and arranged. For once, I didn't make any objections to whatever silly whim Matthew had in purchasing things for you, or suggestions that were made. I didn't want him to miss any small pleasure in helping you get ready. Far be it from me to let you think that I would spoil you or lose my mind to such frivolous things.
Anne. Here's something of a nice light dress for you. I don't suppose you really need it. You have plenty of pretty waists, but I thought you might like something real dressy to wear if you were ever asked anywhere of an evening in town. I hear Jane and Ruby have got evening dresses, as they call them, and I don't mean you shall be behind them.
Oh, Marilla, it's just lovely. Thank you so much. I don't believe that you ought to be so kind to me. It's making it harder every day for me to go away.
Well, I just can't help wishing you could have stayed a little girl, even with all your odd ways. You've grown up now, and you're going away. And you look so tall and stylish and so different altogether in that dress, as if you didn't belong in Avonlea at all. I just got lonesome thinking it all over.
Marilla, I'm not a bit changed, not really. I'm just pruned down and branched out. The real me is just the same. It doesn't matter where I go or how much I change outwardly. At heart, I will always be your little Anne, who will love you and Matthew and dear Green Gables more and better every day of her life.
And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner about the few bad spells Matthew had with his heart. We didn't want to worry you, seeing as you were busy with school and he seemed just fine. All Matthew wanted me to write was that he was glad to hear how well things were going for you at Queen's. Mr. Bloedel and I had a good laugh over yours and Gilbert's continued rivalry, this time for the Queen's Academy gold medal. Although I was glad to hear from Mr. Bloedel that Gilbert had won it at the end of the year, there was still a large part of my heart that ached for you. Little did I know that the letter you sent a day later had that you won the Avery Award, a $250 a year art scholarship for 4 years at Redmond College. It was good to have you home again so we could congratulate you in person.
Oh, it's good to be back. It's good to see those pointed firs coming out against the pink sky and that white. And it's good to see you again.
Oh, Anne, you've done just splendidly. I suppose you won't be teaching now that you've won the Avery.
No, I'm going to Redmond in September. Doesn't it seem wonderful? I'll have a brand new stock of ambitions by that time, after 3 glorious golden months of vacation. Well, Jane and Ruby are going to teach. Isn't it splendid to think we all got through? Even Moody.
The Newbridge trustees have offered Jane their school already. Gilbert Blythe is going to teach too. He has to. His father can't afford to send him to college next year, after all, so he means to earn his own way through. I expect he'll get the school here.
In that one look you made after I said that, I knew exactly what you were thinking. What will I do without my rival? And you must admit now that you at least saw him as a friend by that point, you silly girl.
Most of the time, I can find so much happiness in thinking about all of your successes. But I couldn't help thinking about Matthew today. I know it's already been a few years, but sometimes it seems like only yesterday he was sitting down to tea with us.
Matthew? Matthew? What is the matter? Matthew, are you sick? Diana, run for the hired boy. Quick, quick! He's in the barn! I don't think there's anything we can do for him.
You don't think... You can't think that Matthew's...
Yes, child. I'm afraid of it.
I was mighty grateful that the doctor had said the death had been instantaneous and probably painless. For the first time, shy, quiet Matthew Cuthbert was a person of central importance in Avonlea. I remember you laying those sweet old-fashioned flowers that Mother had planted all around him.
There. Don't cry so, dearie. I can't bring him back. It isn't right to cry so. I knew that now, but I couldn't help it then. He'd always been such a good and kind brother to me. But God knows best.
Well, just let me cry, Marilla. The tears don't hurt me like that ache did. Just stay here a while with me and put your arm around me. Oh, Marilla. What will we do without him?
We've got each other, Anne. I don't know what I would do if you weren't here. If you had never come. Oh, Anne, I know I've been kind of strict and harsh with you maybe, but you mustn't think I didn't love you as well as Matthew did for all that. I want to tell you now when I can. It's never been easy for me to say things out of my heart, but at times like this, it's easier. I love you as dear as if you were my own flesh and blood. And you've been my joy and comfort ever since you've come to Green Gables.
Time passed as it tends to do, and we all fell back into the old ruts of our lives. I know it was hard for you to come to terms with time moving without Matthew, but that's how life works. We have to continue, and we have to adapt to whatever changes God brings us. Many parts of our lives do change quickly sometimes, don't they?
Dr. Spencer was here while you were away. He says that the specialist will be in town tomorrow, and he insists that I must go in and have my eyes examined. I suppose I better go and have it over. I'll be more than grateful if the man can give me the right pair of glasses to suit my eyes. You won't mind being here alone while I'm away, will you?
I'll be all right. Diana will come over for company. I shall attend to the ironing and baking beautifully. You needn't fear that I'll starch the handkerchiefs or flavor the cake with liniment.
What a girl you were for making mistakes in them days, Anne. You were always getting into scrapes. I did used to think you were possessed. Do you remember the time you dyed your hair?
Oh, yes, indeed. I shall never forget it. I laugh a little now when I think what a bother my hair used to be to me. But I don't laugh much because it was a very real trouble then. I did suffer terribly over my hair and my freckles. My freckles are gone. And people are nice enough to tell me my hair is auburn now.
I hear Gilbert Blythe is going to teach.
Yes?
What a nice-looking fellow he is. I saw him in church last Sunday, and he looked so tall and manly. He looks a lot like his father did at the same age. John Blythe was a nice boy. We used to be real good friends, he and I. People called him my beau.
Marilla! What happened? Why didn't you?
We had a quarrel. I wouldn't forgive him when he asked me to. I meant to after a while, but I was sulky and angry, and I wanted to punish him first. He never came back. The Blythes are all mighty independent, and, well, I always felt rather sorry. I always kind of wish I'd forgiven him when I had the chance.
So you had a bit of romance in your life.
Yes, I suppose you might call it that. You wouldn't think so to look at me, would you? But you never can tell people from their looks. Everybody has forgotten about me and John. I'd forgotten myself. But it all came back to me when I saw Gilbert last Sunday.
Marilla, I saw Mr. Sadler driving out from Green Gables yesterday. I don't think he's paid a visit before. What did he want?
He heard that I was thinking of selling Green Gables, and he wants to buy it.
Buy it? Buy Green Gables? You're not thinking of selling Green Gables.
And I don't know what else is to be done. I've thought it all over. If my eyes were strong, I'd stay here and make out to look after things and manage, but as it is, I can't. I may lose my eyesight altogether, and anyway, I'm not fit to run things. It won't bring much. It's small, and the buildings are old, but it'll be enough for me to live on, I reckon. I'm thankful you're provided for with that scholarship, Anne. I'm sorry you won't have a home to come to in your vacations, that's all.
You mustn't sell Green Gables.
Oh, Anne, I wish I didn't have to. But you can see for yourself.
You won't have to stay alone, Marilla. I'll be with you. I'm not going to Redmond.
Not going to Redmond? What on earth do you mean?
Just what I say. I'm not going to take the scholarship. I decided so the night after Matthew passed away. I surely don't think I could leave you alone in all your trouble after all you've done for me. I've been thinking and planning. Mr. Barry wants to rent the farm for next year, so you won't have any trouble over that. And I'm going to teach. I've applied for the school here, but I understand the trustees have promised it to Gilbert Blythe. But I can have the Carmody school. Mr. Blair told me so last night at the store. Of course, it won't be quite as nice or convenient, but I can board home and drive myself over to Carmody and back, in the warm weather at least. And even in the winter, I can come home Fridays. I have it all planned out, Marilla, and I know we'll be real cozy and happy here together, you and I.
Oh, Anne, I could get along real well if you were here. You know that. But I can't let you sacrifice yourself for me. It would be terrible.
Nonsense. There is no sacrifice. Nothing would be worse than giving up Green Gables. Nothing would hurt me more. No, we must keep the dear old place. My mind is quite made up, Marilla. I'm not going to Redmond, and I am going to stay here and teach. Don't you worry about me a bit.
But your ambitions.
And I am just as ambitious as ever. Only I've changed the object of my ambitions. I'm going to be a good teacher, and I'm going to save your eyesight. Besides, I mean to study here at home and take a little college course all by myself. Oh, I have dozens of plans, Marilla. I've been thinking them out for a week. I shall give life here my best. and I believe that it will give me its best in return. When I left for Queens, my future seemed to stretch out ahead of me like a straight road. Now there's a bend in it. I don't know what lies beyond that bend, but I'm going to believe that the best does. It has a fascination of its own, that bend, Marilla. I wonder how the road beyond it goes.
I don't feel as if I ought to let you give up the scholarship.
But you can't prevent me. I'm 16 and a half, obstinate as a mule, as Mrs. Lynde once told me.
You blessed girl! I feel as if you've given me new life. I'll make it up to you, though, Anne.
It didn't take too much time for your news to spread around Avonlea. You surprised a good number of people, and I'm sorry that some thought you ridiculous for wanting more education.
Well, Anne. I hear you've given up the notion of going to college. I was real glad to hear it. You have about as much education now as a woman can be comfortable with. I don't believe in girls going to college with the men and cramming their heads full of Greek and Latin and all that nonsense.
But I'm going to study Latin and Greek just the same, Mrs. Lynde. I'm going to take my arts course right here at Green Gables and study everything that I would at college.
Anne Shirley, you'll kill yourself.
Not a bit of it. I shall thrive on it. Oh, I'm not going to overdo things. I'll have plenty of time in the long winter evenings. I'm going to be teaching over at Carmen, do you know?
No, I don't know it. I guess you're going to teach right here in Avonlea. The trustees have decided to give you the school. I just heard the news, and I knew I had to rush over to tell you.
Mrs. Lynde, I thought the trustees had promised it to... Gilbert, I thought I just heard. Did you? I thought you were taking school here now.
I was awfully sad about the passing of Matthew. I still am. I heard you also applied to Avonlea and figured it'd be a bigger help to you and Marilla if you stayed right here. So I went to the Board of Trustees, withdrew my application, and recommended they give you the position.
Gilbert, you earned that position. What would you do instead?
I've accepted a teaching job at White Sands. That should be stable enough until I can earn my way through college.
Can't let you do this, Gilbert. I don't feel that I ought to take Avonlea. I mean, I don't feel that I ought to let you make such a sacrifice for me.
Well, you can't prevent me now, Anne Shirley. Avonlea's accepted my resignation. I've signed papers with White Sands. Refusing the job now wouldn't do either of us any good.
Gilbert, I want to thank you for giving up the school for me. It was very good of you, and I want you to know I appreciate it.
It wasn't particularly good of me at all, and I was pleased to be able to do this small service. Are we going to be friends? Have you really forgiven me my old fault?
I forgave you that day at the river landing, though I didn't know it. I've been... Might as well make a full confession. I've been sorry ever since.
Anne Shirley, you don't really mean it. We are going to be the best of friends.
Yeah.
We were born to be good friends, Anne. You've thwarted destiny long enough. I know we can help each other in many ways.
Saved again by Gilbert Blythe. At least I didn't have to almost drown this time to have it happen. I wonder if I still have that diary entry somewhere.
Wait, that actually happened? There is a diary? Nope.
Charlie's from here. Well, come
On either side of the river lie long fields of barley and rye that clothe the world and touch the sky, and through the field the road runs by to many-towered Camelot. Willows whiten, aspens shiver, sunbeam showers break and shiver in the stream that runneth ever by the island, in the river flowing down to Camelot. Oh!
Anne Shirley, what in the heck are you doing? What happened, Anne?
We were playing Elaine, and I had to drift down to Camelot in the barge. I mean the flat. And the flat began to leak, and so I climbed out onto some nearby driftwood. The girls went for help.
What?
Would you be kind enough to row me to the landing? I'm very much obliged to you.
Anne, look here. Why can't we be friends? I'm awfully sorry I made fun of your hair at that time. I didn't mean to vex you. I only meant it for a joke. Besides, it was so long ago, I think your hair's awfully pretty now. Honest, I do. Let's be friends.
No, Gilbert Blythe. I shall never be friends with you, and I don't want to be.
Fine. I'll never ask to be your friend again, Anne Shirley. And I don't care either.
Wrong again. You were such a great help those years you stayed at home with me. I couldn't ask for a better daughter, a young woman whom all her pupils admire. I just wished I had known how to reassure you that I was going to be all right on my own so that you could go on to Redmond. Having Rachel move in with me once her husband passed helped, but I sure was glad to find that letter from Matthew. There's a letter from Matthew? Oh, I'm such a klutz. Dear Anne, I know I haven't written too many letters, but I thought it would be nice to write one for your graduation from Queens. It seems funny to think now that there was a time that you weren't at Green Gables. I remember driving out to Bright River to pick up a little orphan boy, but there was a little girl instead.
So it's you are Mr. Matthew Cuthbert of Green Gables? I'm so glad you've come. I was beginning to be afraid you weren't coming for me. And I was imagining all the things that might have happened to prevent you. I decided that if you didn't come for me tonight, I'd walk down the track to that big wild cherry tree at the bend and climb up into it and stay all night. I wouldn't be a bit afraid. And it would be lovely to sleep in a wild cherry tree. All white with bloom in the moonshine, don't you think? You could imagine you were dwelling in marble halls, couldn't you? And I was quite sure you'd come for me in the morning, if you didn't come for me tonight.
Sorry it was late. The horse is out in the yard. Give me your bag.
Oh, I can carry it. I've got all my worldly goods in it. And if it isn't carried in just a certain way, the handle pulls out. So I'd better keep it, because I know the exact knack of it. Oh, I'm so glad you've come, even if it would have been nice to sleep in a wild cherry tree. We've got to drive along with these, haven't we? I'm glad, because I love driving. When we got on the train, I felt as everybody must be looking at me and pitying me, that I just went right to work and imagined I had on the most beautiful pale blue silk dress, because when you're imagining, you might as well imagine something worthwhile. And a big hat, all flowers and nodding plumes, and a gold watch, and kid gloves, and boots. I felt cheered up right away, and I enjoyed my trip to the island with all my might. I just love it already, and I'm so glad I'm going to live here. I've always heard that Prince Edward Island was the prettiest place in the world, and I used to imagine I was living here, but I never really expected that I would. It's delightful when your imaginations come true, isn't it?
Well, now, I don't know exactly.
Am I talking too much? People are always telling me I do. Would you rather I didn't talk? If you tell me to, I'll stop. I can stop when I make up my mind to it, though it's awfully difficult.
No, you can talk as much as you like. I don't mind.
It's always been a dream of mine to live somewhere near a brook. I never really expected that I would, though. Dreams don't often come true, especially in the way we expect. Wouldn't it be delightful if they did? But just now, I feel pretty nearly perfectly happy. I can't feel exactly perfectly happy because, well, what color would you say this is?
It's red, ain't it?
Yes. Now you see why I can't be perfectly happy. Have you ever imagined what it must feel like to be divinely beautiful?
Well, now, no, I haven't.
Well, I have, often. Which would you be if you had your choice? Divinely beautiful, dazzlingly clever, or angelically good?
Well, now, I don't know.
Well, neither do I. I never can decide. Though it doesn't make much real difference because it isn't likely I'll ever be either. It's certain I'll never be angelically good. Mrs. Spencer says, "Oh, Mr. Cuthbert!"
How amazed you were the first time you saw the avenue. Your thin hands clasped, leaning back in the buggy, and your eyes shining. Even when we had passed through, you didn't move or speak. I was surprised you could do that. I always liked that view too, but seeing you get so excited changed the way I see it now.
We're pretty near home now. That's Green Gables over.
Oh, don't tell me, let me guess. I'm sure I'll guess right. There, that's it, isn't it?
Well, you've guessed it. Though I suppose Mrs. Spencer described this as you could tell.
Oh, she didn't, really she didn't. But as soon as I saw it, I felt it was home. Oh, it seems as if it must be a dream. Do you know? My arm must be black and blue from the elbow up, for I pinched myself so many times today. But it is real. And we're nearly home.
Well, now, I should have apologized to you sooner about what happened when we got home. I couldn't stop thinking to myself the trouble of the mistake. Not for Marilla or me, no, but your own disappointment. The thought of the light leaving your eyes made me feel real uneasy. I get the feeling I do whenever I have to kill a lamb or a calf, hurting some innocent little creature. Marilla sure was upset about it at first, but I couldn't stop thinking to myself how enjoyable a time we had coming home together. I couldn't place my finger on it then, but I knew we had to keep you. I knew we could be good for you, Anne. I wanted us to be good for you. And you turned out to be good for us. I suppose it was hard for some others to see at first, especially when you threw that tantrum over what Rachel had said. But it was a nasty thing she had said.
How you making it, Anne?
Pretty well. I imagine a good deal, and that helps pass the time. Of course, it's rather lonesome, but I might as well get used to that.
Don't you think you better just do it and have it over with? It'll have to be done sooner or later, you know, for Marilla's a dreadful determined woman. Just do it and have it over.
You mean apologize to Mrs. Lynde?
Yes, apologize. That's the word. Just smooth things over, so to speak. That's what I was trying to get at.
I suppose I could do it to oblige you. And be truthful enough to say I'm sorry, because I am sorry now. I wasn't a bit sorry earlier. But still, I'd do anything for you if you really wanted me to.
Well, now, of course I do, Anne. It's terrible lonesome downstairs without you. Just smooth things over.
Very well. I'll tell Marilla as soon as she comes in that I've repented.
That's a good girl. But don't tell Marilla I said anything about it. She might think I was putting my oar in, and I promise not to do that.
I left that room as fast as I could, scared at my own success, and the thought of what Marilla might do if she found out. What a relief it was to see you two coming up the drive the next day, your hand in Marilla's. Marilla looked a little different for a moment then. Some of the hardness in her seemed to have gone a little. And you kept on surprising us. Like that night you saved little Minnie May. I'll never forget what the doctor said when he was explaining the case to me. That little red-headed girl you have is as smart as I make him. I tell you, she saved that baby's life, for it would have been too late by the time I got there. She seems to have a skill and presence of mind perfectly suited to a child of her age. I'll never forget the eyes of her when she was explaining the case to me. My little red-headed girl. You deserved a reward. And I knew just the thing. A new dress with nice color and puffed sleeve. You just love those puffed sleeves. Well, now I don't want you to go on thinking that I thought I knew better than Marilla in the way you dressed. I surely didn't. But I wanted you to have something special. And I knew that Marilla couldn't know about it. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert! What can I do for you this evening?
Do you have any garden rakes?
It's the middle of December, Anne.
I believe we have one or two left over, but they're upstairs in the lumber room. I'll go and see.
One left. Anything else I can get for you tonight, Mr. Cuthbert?
Well, if it isn't too much trouble, I'd like to look at some sugar.
There's a barrel of it over there. Brown's the only kind you have, I'm afraid. How much would you like?
I'll take 20 pounds of it. Would that be enough?
Yes, Mr. Cuthbert, I'm sure 20 pounds will be enough.
Well, no, actually, miss. I'd like a dress.
A what?
A dress.
A dress?
Yes. Well, for Anne.
Oh, of course. Why didn't you just say so?
How would she like it made?
Puff sleeves.
Good. Good. What else? I'll keep it a surprise. How does that sound? Oh, Mr. Cuthbert? A couple weeks later, and I was finally able to pick up the dress. Marilla behaved pretty well on the whole, although I thought I heard her mumble something about my promise not to put my oar in. Christmas came, though, and it was wonderful to hear you running downstairs and filling the house with singing.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Matthew. Merry Christmas, Marilla. Oh, isn't it a lovely Christmas? Oh, Matthew. Matthew's after me? Oh, Matthew.
It's a Christmas present for you, Anne. Why, don't you like it? Oh, well, no. Well, no.
Like it? Oh, Matthew. Matthew, it's absolutely lovely. Oh, my goodness, I can never thank you enough. Oh, Matthew. Oh, look at those sleeves. Oh, this seems as if it must be a happy dream. Oh.
Well, let us have breakfast. I must say, Anne, I don't think you needed the dress. But since Matthew has got it for you, see that you take good care of it.
I don't know how I could eat breakfast. Breakfast seems so commonplace at such an exciting moment. I'd rather feast my eyes on this dress. Oh.
Reckon you're glad we kept her, Marilla?
It's not the first time I've been glad. You do like to rub things in, Matthew Cuthbert.
Well, now, I was always happy for you to be off on your own adventures and conquering the world, as they say. But every time you were back at Green Gables, it felt as though you had never left.
You've been working too hard today, Matthew. Why don't you take things easier?
Well, it's just, I can't seem to. I'm getting older and I keep forgetting it. It's just, I've always been a hard worker and I guess I'd rather drop while plowing.
If I'd been the boy you sent for, I could spare you so much more now and help you in 100 ways. I could find it in my heart to wish I had been, just for that.
Well, Anne, I'd rather have you than a dozen boys.
I'd rather have you than a dozen boys, Anne. I suppose it wasn't a boy that won the Avery Award, was it? It wasn't a boy who saved little Minnie May's life or bettered the lives of her friends. It wasn't a boy who changed my life, who taught me what my life was really about. You once told me that dreams rarely come true, at least not in the way that we expect them to. And while it took me a while to realize that I had a dream, and well, it's good to have you home again, Anne. Love, Matthew. Oh, Matthew.
Ava, are you still up here?
Yeah?
Wow. Look at all this junk.
It's not junk, it's Anne's whole life.
Who's Anne?
I think she used to live here. There are all these letters from her friends and family and her diary.
You've been up here reading other people's letters?
Oh, they're really old, Dad. You'd probably really like them. You have to check this out.
Maybe later, okay? Dinner's ready. You wouldn't believe how pretty this place is. Your mother just found a beautiful little pond just down the way.
The lake of shining waters.
The what now?
Jeez, Dad, have a spark of imagination.
I'm just trying to imagine not being so hungry right now. Come on. Look, I know it's hard and it's very different, but I hope you learn to love it here.
Thanks, Dad. I'm feeling better about it. Just let me tell you about these people. So, there was this girl, Anne, specifically spelled with an E. And she was adopted by these farmers, Burl and Matthew. They thought they were getting a boy, but the orphanage sent her instead. They decided to keep her because she was so fun and interesting. Oh, wait, 1 second. You'll always have a home at Green Gables.